Welcome to another episode of the Create Your Vibrant Life podcast. Today, I have a dear client of mine, Ashley Pitzer. And Ashley is one of the most phenomenal women I've ever met. I have to say, there's so many things I can say about Ashley, but let me start by you introducing yourself, Ashley, and then I will dive into all the amazing things that you're doing.
All right, I'll do that. And the first thing I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared to do this. I'm Ashley Pitzer. I am one of those people that I feel like had a midlife crisis and decided to really wake up my spiritual life and start living my dream. Padma was one of the people that helped me really get there. And so I was like a former kind of stay-at-home mom, taking care of a special needs kid who actually very neurodiverse. And I was kind of working in the industry of fitness, which I absolutely loved, but I wasn't honoring my body. It was breaking down and I was struggling with this autoimmune disease and I had all of this stuff going on. And in the middle of it, I was losing touch with my husband and our marriage. And I had this older child that was suicidal. These are all of the things about me. And so I had this like midlife crisis where it's like, there has to be something different. There has to be more to life. And so I started this transformation process. Padma was definitely, like I said, a part of it. And I really decided at one point that I was done with this. The dream in my heart was to be an author. I had all of these fantasy like book ideas that were coming to me, and I wasn't even like recording half of them. And sometimes I would write them down and I would just lose sight of them and not invest in them. And eventually I got to this place where I was like, it's do or die. I'm living my dream or I'm just wasting my life. And my soul was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I took the plunge. I took the leap of faith. I believed in myself and I wrote this book. And now I can say that I am a fantasy author.
And it's not just a fantasy author. I had literally I fell off the seat of my chair when I started to read the book. It is that incredible. But I just want to take a minute and just emphasize this, Ashley. Like you really, really invested in yourself to believe in all the things that you were doing. And all the things that have happened in your life, like you really turned it around because you said you were done. And I want to emphasize that because I've seen your journey and you have so many demands on you and you came through with such amazing, you're a bright light. So I want to dive into the book, but I also want to share with all of you guys listening. Ashley has an amazing journal that I love. Ashley, can you want to share a little bit about your journal before we jump into the book? It's for like this book, that journal is incredible. And I saw you make it from start to finish.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I actually have like a black and white, like this is my mock-up right here. Sorry, I don't have the actual book in front of me. I wish I did. But this is like your starting page, your 2003 essential journal. Look at all of these moon phases. So beautiful. So anyway, this journal came to me because I had like 15 journals. I had so many journals. I had this journal for my dreams. I had a journal for every day when I pulled my cards so I could see what spirit is telling me, what I need to do, how I was responding to it. I had journals for my manifesting and what I wanted. And I was always like, okay, so being a hypnotist, I understand as a hypnotist that when you look for evidence, it trains your brain towards what you want to manifest. And I was like, there's no journal out here that is accomplishing everything that I want out of my life and my spiritual path. And so, you know what they say? Fine, I'll do it myself. You know that saying? And I'm like, I just did it. I was like, I created this beautiful journal and it's all around the moon stuff because what I was so interested in seeing is how is the moon affecting me? How is it affecting my ability to manifest? When is the best time for me to like, let's say launch my book? When is my energy at my highest peak? When do I have the most evidence coming into my life? And like tracking this and really understanding like who I am and how like spirit, how like God, universe, source is working through me. So this journal is what I created to make that possible. And so yes, I'm loving it. I just created it.
And I love it.
Here. Oh, good.
Yes, because it also has the moon cycles on it. It is so well done. And I was telling you before we got on here, like I can't, like I'm just loving this journal. So you're already an author. We're just waiting for the next book to release.
There you go. Well, I'll show you this. So this was January 6th. This is the black and white version because I was being cheap. Like,
No, I have the
real one
colored
is
version.
the real one is colored version, but it will say like full moon on here, or if it's a different day, this is waning gibbous Cancer. So that way you can always see what's going on. And then I also have journaling questions, which I tried to like my goal was to tie the journaling questions into the phase of the moon. So at each phase, there's different things energetically you should be working on. And so I say should, but it helps you to work on these things.
Right.
So I made sure there's a lot of intention put behind this.
Amazing. Where can they find the journal before we go in the book?
Amazon, and I'll make sure that you have it in the show notes. So it's
Awesome.
2003 Ascension Journal. It is only sold on Amazon right now. It's a full 8.5 by 11. There's like 400 pages to it. It's a big book. So, and there's lots of little
2023.
extras to there.
Yeah. 2023 Ascension Journal on Amazon. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. So let's dive into your book. Tell me and tell everyone, how did this book even come to your...
How does spirit work with anybody? You don't know, but I will tell you. So don't you like your logo speaks to this. So I know you understand this because your logo is about the phoenix, like rising from the ashes, right? And this idea came to me when I got laid off. This is right at the peak of the peak and the downfall of my life, where everything was kind of hitting. I got laid off during the time where everybody got laid off, and I didn't have income coming in. I was home alone with somebody who wasn't treating me very well. That was my husband. And so he was in a really negative place, and he was really taking it out on me. I had a suicidal teenager, and I have a neurodiverse child with a rare genetic disorder who has ADHD and can't sit still for like 5 seconds. And I'm home alone in this, time for months. And it was so low because I was asking my husband for a divorce. I was doing whatever I could to keep my kid alive. And with all of this weight on me, and in the darkest moments of your life, this story came to me, and it just became this creative, emotional release for me. And this is before, for anybody who follows Jim Fortin in the transformational coaching program. This is before I knew about Jim. This is before I entered into this program. And this is what blows my mind, right? This is how amazing spirit is. That's why I get goosebumps. But anyway, so I didn't know any of y'all existed, and I started writing this story, and the main character is like Sabina, right? And like Jim talks so much about like a shaman that was named Sabina, and the book is about a prophecy where somebody is going to be born. This is a post-apocalyptic, that word's hard for me to say, story where a nuclear war gets set off and the world is essentially destroyed, but there's these few survivors that happen to make it, because all of a sudden in the middle of this nuclear war, they bloom out with these supernatural abilities, these superpowers. And because they have these superpowers, they're able to save like the world. And so like one of the very first superpowers is a shield, and they became known as a shielder, right? So they were able to shield the people around them to keep them alive. And so this is what this story is coming about. And there's a prophecy as this story takes off from the nuclear war and they rebuild their civilization, that there's going to be somebody who was born with all 8 muins. Those are the supernatural abilities. They're called muins in this world. And so anyway, this person that is being born with all 8 is not only just like have them, but also to the fullest strength, the rarest kind. They're so darn special, right? And then this person is going to be born with all 8, the fullest strength, and that person is going to be called the Agni, which is to me like, I'm like, wow, that's so close to like the Ainia. I was like, there's all of these words that tie in if you're on the spiritual path. And so it blows my mind that the story came to me and the characters' names that came to me. And there's this character in there. So for all of you that are ever going to read this book, there's this character in there named Nana Honey. And she is like older than old, and she's, she's a seer. So she's somebody who can see into somebody's life, kind of their past, their present, their future. And she's really, really strong. But she is also so like, to me, she's like a shaman. She's so gifted, and she has all of this ability to kind of guide you without forcing your will. And this makes this book one of the most mindful books, where every day when I sat down to write, I wrote with the intention that this book would be, and it would be entertaining, inspiring, and healing through the transformational lessons of each character, and that people could escape from their life and escape from suffering and just come into this book and feel like this book knows them and feels like this book is like their best friend, like they get you. And I really think the Nana Honey makes this story, even though she's a sideline character.
Nice. Wow. So essentially this book was a download for you.
It was a download. Yes. And I'm so grateful because several came to me, and even in the writing process. So, I mean, now I'm following all of these authors, and I'm hearing people talk in a way that portrays that writing is really difficult for them, that nobody just gets these ideas that flow to them. And I'm like, that was me. Like,
No, but I also wanted to highlight, I saw you from when you were writing the book to when you got it to where it is right now, where it's in print and it's like it's getting ready to be published, right? When we're recording this episode, it's in January, the beginning of January. But you really, this I want you to share a little bit about your process, because it was up and down, up and down, up and down, but you figured out a way, and that shows your resilience. So can you share a little bit about like how you got it from where you were and where it is right now?
sure. Well, the first process, I just started off writing, and this was during the time that I was laid off. And so when my child laid down for their nap, my process was just as an emotional release for everything going on. And my goal was to write 1 page a day. And so there was about 100 days I was laid off. I managed to get 100 pages, and then I put that book away. And then I went off and decided, this whole experience with staying at home, I decided to switch my careers and go into medical coding. So that's my first thing, right? You realize that there's this emotional release, and this provides you with so much joy. But my first life lesson was learning to really claim it and to seize it, because I put it on the shelf and said, no, that's just a hobby, and so that was the first thing I really had to do, because I went through that whole year of medical coding to come back and do 2 weeks in the field. And I got certified 2 weeks in the field and realized this was like a prison, and this didn't speak to my heart. And I had this example of writing that did speak to my heart. So that was the first thing. And then going back to the story and kind of rehashing it. So for me, the writing every day was like lighting a candle, setting my intention, and allowing whatever to come to me, and just deciding that I wasn't going to judge it. And this is right when I started TCP with Jim Fortin. And so he asked a question. This is what made me change everything. He asked the question, if you had $5 million already in your bank account, what would you do? And I was like, oh, that's so clear. And when I started writing the answer to this, it was like a 1.5 pages long. It was like so much. And I was like, I know what my dream is. Why am I not reaching for it? So I decided that that's what I was going to do. And so the second hurdle was, oh, I'm going to quit my job when I've asked my husband to leave me, and I don't even know if I'm going to have money and what's going to happen here. And, but I'm going to tell you, as soon as I chose me, everything in my life changed. My suicidal teen all of a sudden saw me making different choices. And they always say, be the change. I was the change. I started living for me. I started taking care of me. I started prioritizing my self-care and what I needed to make my cup full. And when I started doing that, my teen started doing that. And eventually my husband started doing that. And all of a sudden, everything in my life started to shift. And I wrote this.
Ashley, that is so key. I want to really highlight this for all the audience, because this is the work. You chose you, but the more you choose you, the more things open up. And it's almost like it's contrary to how our brains think. It's like, let me solve this problem. No, choose you.
Yeah. prior to this, I was spending an entire year forcing my kid to go to counseling, forcing my husband, if you will, like, well, I wouldn't say forcing, but he's the one that I was like, we're done, we're over. And I'm like, if you really want this to work out, you have to go to counseling. So this is where I was before. I was like, these are the steps that society says that you have to take. And I was going to, like, so many different coaches, so many different counselings, all of these things. I was running myself so thin, and I finally just was like, I'm done. I have to take care of me. The chips are going to fall where they fall. And if it wasn't for the fact that I knew I was drowning and that nobody was going to save me but me, I don't know that I would have taken these steps, because I guess, like, the saying is like, you don't make change unless it's super painful, like there is that saying, I can't word it correctly, but I got to that painful point where I was like, it has to change. And I did. And I really wasn't expecting for my kid to all of a sudden heal emotionally. I wasn't expecting him to start choosing himself, because one of the things about my kid was during this suicidal thing is he decided that he wanted to go from a female to a male. So he was going through this transgender emotional trauma time. And when he saw me choose me, then he started choosing him, and he really stepped into his power. And like, oh, we're a year past, and to see my kids laugh again and smile and make friends and go out, you don't even know how much joy that brings me. And it wasn't necessarily me forcing the change. It was only me selecting me. That's it.
Wow.
I modeled it.
I'm pausing because this is it.
Yeah. I modeled it. And do you know what's even great? I don't even know how much we've talked about this, Padma, since our coaching sessions, but I said eventually my husband, right? Well, my husband was in a job that he was just burnt out on it. It wasn't fitting with his projector, human design. He was so far away from who his heart was. And he was in this just negative environment, and he was bringing that negative environment home, and he was so unhappy. And then he sees me writing, and he sees me being so happy. And, he was in a job where he just thought, I get paid really well and I don't have to work that hard, like, I'm just going to stay. And all of a sudden he shifted too. And he was like, I actually want to be challenged at work. I actually want something different. I want to learn something new. So even now, right now, he has shifted in his career, and he's finding himself like more happier, and like just little things. Like the other day, he came to me and he's like, you know what? I've spent too much time on social media. I'm deleting it from my phone so we have more time to talk. What? Like, seriously? Thank you.
Did you even imagine any of these things coming to life back then? No. But
No.
all you did was what?
I chose me. I chose me. I chose my dream. I chose to take care of myself. I chose to decide, one of the sayings that Jim says in our class all the time is, see it how you want to see it. So even when things were looking really bad, I was like, no, this is how I see it. Like, this is what I am choosing to believe. So like, even when people, they say things to me, I'll be like, or I can choose to believe this.
Right. Right. You chose to believe what feels right to you, and you continued that. And even this writing process, and once you finish the book, figuring out how to publish it, figuring out all those details, like you really figured it out one step at a time.
Yeah, the writing part was the easiest part for me, because a lot of downloads came to me. I created the discipline of meditation every single day and making sure that I was really quiet. I made sure that I didn't put any pressures or expectations or judgments on me, and I just wrote, and it became really easy. It's just for all of those people that have ever dreamed about writing a book, when you take away judgment and you decide just to trust whatever comes out, it's an easy process. Getting to that point might not be as easy, but when you finally make that leap, it is so easy. But then the second part of my journey was, I've written this book. Now I got to hire an editor, and who's the right editor? And I interviewed a ton of people, and the person that I chose, I got along with so well. And it was such a beautiful thing, but they were going through something. And so they were just not producing. They weren't able to do their job because of what they were going through. It's like, if you imagine me a year ago and what I was going through, right? It's like they're all of a sudden, and that's okay, because you know what? You attract what you are. And that was the tail end of me attracting what I was. And I set the boundary, and we had to work on this. Padma and I had to work on this because, she helped me to see that I was still holding on to people and ways of being that weren't allowing me to choose myself in my dream. And so part of the process was firing this person.
Right, because it's like layers, right? Like
Yes.
you chose you the first step, and then the second step is like choosing you another deeper level, which means like really letting go of things that no longer serve you. And that's not a comfortable process. And
Mm-mm.
firing somebody is never comfortable, but you chose
No.
you again. And look at what has opened up from that place.
Oh, I got the most amazing editor that really polished my book and made it an easy read and so beautiful. And she's a university professor, so she was kind of teaching me little tips along the way. It was super, super beautiful, and I'm so grateful. But if I would have clung on to that relationship,
Right.
especially since I cared so much about the first person, I wouldn't have got here. So letting go and surrendering is 100% a part of the process. And
Wow.
so, yeah, the editor situation was another hurdle. Well, then it became like marketing too, right? Then learning how to market myself was another struggle, big struggle. And the perceptions I had coming into this were like, I need book bloggers. This is one of Padma and I's like first coaching sessions. I was stressing out about so many details on marketing and this and that. And Padma wasn't having it. She was not having it. And really helped me again to step in my power and claim what I want, not just to freak out and not just to say, because this is the traditional path people go, I have to go this way too. And so even because Padma and I have kind of, our time together has moved on now, and I'm kind of on my own, I'm still learning through this entire process. So I would tell you even now, like, I'm switching my marketing strategy. I went from trying to post to all of these social medias and reach out to I'm just busy, right? Now I'm on TikTok, and I'm getting more and more comfortable, and I just post anything and everything on there. I actually share like almost all of my content, like what I'm doing, what my struggles are. Cause like, right, I
Yeah.
posted just recently my book cover flops because I couldn't share my chapter 1 with the world so they could see if they liked my book or not without a book cover. And so it's like I had to create a book cover, and then I created this beautiful book cover, but then it wouldn't upload. So then I created the second one, and I didn't like the second one. So there's all of these hurdles all the time. And I hired an illustrator from Fiverr. Is that how you say it? I did not like this work. And I went back and forth with this person multiple times. And then I just decided, you don't understand my vision. It's not going to work. That's fine. And I was like, I'll do it myself. So I literally downloaded Photoshop, watched tutorials for hours, and then created an awesome book cover and sticker and all of this stuff so that I
Wow.
can promote myself.
But again, like I want to share like the how even with the hurdles, you have a way of keeping your attention exactly where you need to go. Like your attention is on the price and not on the hurdles. This is what has made you really successful with what you're doing.
Yeah. They say that some of the people that are most successful in this world are people that are obsessed. And I thought that was a
Ooh,
really
I love that.
interesting, yeah, I thought that was a really interesting, public speaker that I was able to listen to, because in my mind, that was another area of judgment for me. I always decided addictions, being like a workaholic was bad, and being obsessed is like being a workaholic. And so in my mind, there was judgments all around, this isn't good. This is bad behavior. Like, shame on you if you're obsessed. You're not balancing work and life. And there were some tough conversations I've had to have with my husband and my teenager to say, you know what? You may not like that I'm not available for you when you want me to be available for you, but the point is I'm available to you, just not when you want it. And I am choosing me, and I am writing now, or I am working on my PR now, and this is the time I have available to you. You can choose to use it or not. Like, and I've had to have these really hard conversations with them and draw my boundaries and stick to it. And I totally mean it. And it was so freeing to hear and to know that the people that are the most successful are the people that are obsessed. And I'm
Actually, I love it. I love it. I'm learning something from you today, Ashley, because I am very obsessed. I'm an obsessed person, which is why I don't have TV, or like I don't have junk food at home, because I can get very obsessed with that too. So I've chosen to move my obsession to this. This is amazing. So, so again, like this is for the listeners, like notice, like if you are struggling, if you're not getting what you want, do what Ashley's doing. Keep your attention on the price, be obsessed, be courageous, choose you. It's so simple, right? And yet people get stuck.
Yeah. And I'm also to a different place. I used to be a person who couldn't ask for help, because asking for help meant that I was weak, or that I wasn't smart enough to figure it out, or, you know, like that there's something wrong about me. So I didn't ask for help. Now it's a completely different story. Like, for instance, one of my goals is on TikTok to get 1,000 TikTok followers so that I can have that link. And that link is going to allow people to be able to access my chapter 1 or how to find me, you know. And so this link is a valuable asset to have. And so my TikTok account, I just recently, you know, started. And so it was going really slow. It was really hard to attain people. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I know what I want. I'm just going to tell people what I want. And I'm like, I want 1,000 followers so I can do this. Will you help me? And now I post this, like, I don't know, every 4th day. But I mean, like, I'll open up my app and I'll have 17 new followers because they saw this and they were willing to help me. And that's what we do. We attract what we are. And I'm a person who's willing to ask for help now.
That's incredible, Ashley. That's incredible. And again, if you want what you want, like this is for anybody listening, go after it, is what you're saying. Like, go after it, put all your intention and attention on it and create it.
Yeah, I 100% want it. I want it.
So
I know I want it.
So I'm curious, like how much of that is reflected in the book? Going back to the book.
Well,
can you describe Sabina for us a little bit? Or are you
okay,
giving away?
I'm
Like,
gonna maybe take this a different direction, but I will. Okay, so Sabina is, so this story is based around the fact that Sabina has had a very sheltered life. And she didn't know this, but there was an amulet necklace, if you will. I'm wearing an amulet necklace.
Look at that.
An amulet necklace put on her that was making her invisible, but she did not know this. Her father did this to her, and he did it out of love and to protect her. So Sabina internally was like, why doesn't anybody like me? Why am I unnoticeable? Not knowing that this barrier was blocking her and existed. Now, my friends, this character has an amulet necklace, but this is probably what you are experiencing through your subconscious programming. So let me tie this back in. Somewhere along the line, somebody told you to be quiet, to be submissive, to be obedient, to be quiet, to be a good girl. Ooh, I hate that word. I hate it.
I hate it too.
I hate it. Somewhere somebody did this to you. And this is how this is with Sabina. Her father wanted to protect her. He wanted to keep her safe. That's what parents want to do. So he puts this amulet necklace around her so people can't really see her and she has no voice. I know how that feels. So
well, let's pause there for a second. I want to highlight that one too. Can I share that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So for all your listeners, if Ashley can do this, you can too. Ashley was mute for what, 5 years?
Yeah,
The first 5 years?
yeah. I mean, so like in kindergarten, I didn't get to pass kindergarten because I didn't talk.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until like my second or third grade where I was able to whisper because I didn't even feel confident enough to speak in a loud enough voice. So when I would speak, I had a couple of words I would say, mostly okay, yes or no, like, bare minimum words, and I would whisper.
Wow. And from that to being an author, my goodness, wow. Like just wow. Like look at what we can accomplish, right? When we set our mind to it. And that's what you've done. And kudos to you because you've gone after what you've overcome so many hurdles and barriers. And that's what I want to say to everybody. If you're listening, if Ashley can do it, you can. Until third grade, you barely spoke. Like that is huge for
Mhm.
you now to be a writer, right? And in this book, I know is going to take off.
I totally believe too. My faith is up there. I totally see it happening, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that this was given to me, honestly.
Yes.
So, I'm
After we
hoping
end
so
our
too.
podcast, I want to share something with you why it's going to be amazing. We'll just talk afterwards. Anyways,
Okay.
then you can talk, guys. I was just having a conversation here. So going back, go back to the book. So she was.
Yeah, she was totally blocked. And so she had all these insecurities and didn't feel like she was good enough. And she was longing for connection, and she wasn't getting it. And so the story starts off right away with her father coming up to her, telling her 3 days before her birth challenge, which that's the name of the story, is the birth challenge. And the birth challenge is a spiritual ritual where you go from being a child to an adult. It's a big deal in this world. It's celebrated all over the world. It is where you, as the child, get to choose your adult name and how you are going to be identified. It is where you get to claim your independence and be responsible for all the choices that you make. And in this particular place that she lived, it had a second part to it where you decided you were tested in 3 areas to see how you were going to serve the community, like your vocation, right? So 3 days before her birth challenge, her father rides up to her and tells her, I'm out. I gotta go. I'm not going to be there for your birth challenge. The most significant day in your life, I'm not going to be there for. And, go see your mother. She's got a letter for you, because he was a coward and couldn't say it to her face. And so this letter reveals so much. And I won't go into it because you have to read it.
Yes.
But it reveals so much, and Sabina's world completely shifts because she basically has this identity crisis as
Wow.
she goes through this transition where she learns the truth. And
So the
so,
book is about how she comes out of it.
yeah.
Oh, do you want to read the first chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to tell you all, I consider myself to be an emotional writer. So when you read this book, you're going to feel emotions. So, let me forewarn you, I normally have my glasses. So if I stumble, it's because I'm wearing contacts and they don't correct my astigmatism. So it's harder for me to read. So I should have thought about that ahead of time. I'm sorry. A
Oh,
sadness.
I put you on the spot. I'm like, read the chapter, right? Oh, no, go for it.
Okay. A sadness rested like an ocean on Sabina's chest, big, vast, and full of tidal waves that crashed and beat against her heart, as if it was as insignificant in its power. The sadness was, once again, brought on by her father's impending departure, which always elicited a set of stacked questions. Questions Sabina didn't want to acknowledge, but constantly teased her mind. Questions she couldn't bear to know the answer to because she feared what they would mean. And questions that also had the potential to give her the validation she so desperately needed. Hugging herself tighter as her soul wept, Sabina looked out over the still pond on another perfect day. It was not lost to her that her soul was as invisible to her as her presence was to this world. Even in nature, with serenity all around her, Sabina was unable to remove the pinched eyebrows, the stiffness in her crossed arms, or the roundness of her spine as she buried into herself, protecting her fragile heart from the brutality of the crashing waves.
I was focusing, I was listening. That's the first chapter?
That's the first, no, oh, you want the whole chapter would take me like 17 minutes. That's the first
Oh,
paragraph, but I could go on.
no, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I've had the privilege of reading, but I
Yeah.
love it. I'm so, wow, that's amazing. I thought like, wait, that's the first chapter? Like so little? Or you just read a
Oh,
snippet. So
yeah.
where can they get the first chapter?
So the first chapter is available through book funnels. I'll leave you the link so
Mhm.
you can read. And okay, so I'm going to let you guys know that this is an epic fantasy. And if you're not familiar with epic fantasies, they are longer. They're not your short story fantasies. So this is a good chunk of book. In fact, when I was going through the editing process, several people wouldn't even quote me because they told me my book was too long. So this book is a big thick book, and it's a delightful read though. Every chapter has so much packed adventure in it. So but yeah, the first chapter I think is like 17 pages if you were looking at it on like a full document. So it's like 26 when you're looking at it on a 6x9. So they're big chapters, and that first chapter is available through BookFunnel. You just give your email, bam, you get it. So, and then you can follow me and see if you want to know more. And the book releases on May 2nd. So I'm so excited about that.
We do have a date then.
Yeah, May 2nd. It's there.
Wow.
My book, the thing I'm mostly waiting on is like my book cover. So my book cover is going to be done at the end of this month, at the end of January. This is when we're recording it. So January of 2023. So once I have that out, I can go. But like I told you, I didn't have a book coach doing this. So for any of those people that are like, I need a book coach, I need this. I hired somebody to do a website, and it's been 9 months and the website isn't done. So you don't even need a website, okay? I have figured out how to do everything, including how to share my chapter 1 without a website that still keeps it copyright protected. Okay. So that's why I'm using
Wow.
BookFunnel for all of you. And I have no
Oh,
affiliates with them. Okay. So
wow. Okay. So this is really good to know. And this is so inspiring, Ashley. Like I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast, is because watching your journey and how you have overcome every hurdle, and with so much grace, so much with a smile on your face all the time, like somehow like you're going to get through this. That is such an inspiring thing. And I love that the book is long, because that's the whole purpose of having a fantasy book. We can go into it and get lost in it. Well, Harry
this is
Potter books are this big, so okay, why not?
exactly. Yeah. And I guess like, so what one of the things I was going to tell you that I didn't know ahead of time. So I'm learning, like I'm saying, I am learning very vulnerably on all my social media. I share what I'm learning. I didn't know that there's such a thing called ARC team. So these are your advanced reader copies. And so it is suggested that you have these ARC copies sent out, like around 3 months before the book is getting released, so that people can read your book ahead of time and then share what they experienced reading your book, the characters that they liked, what the book was about, the tropes are like things like in fantasy, if it's my trope is like a chosen one, right? This is a chosen epic fantasy. So versus like a dark sorcerer or a mentor, or whatever it may be. So they'll go in and they'll start promoting this stuff and helping you get reviews, so that when your book kicks off, you're headed in a strong thing. So that's another reason I pushed it out to like May, so that I can send out these ARC copies to people, and that way they can read it, share it, like it, review it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And is this book for young adults, children?
Okay. So I have written this it is a new age book, meaning that the character, so there's two ways of looking at this. The character is a new age. They're going through a rite of passage. So it is not considered, it is not necessarily for youth, young adults. Some parents out there may feel like this is okay because this is relatively clean, but the series itself will not be. So keep that in mind. So it is relatively clean. It is just how much of a helicopter parent are you? How liberal are you versus conservative? I'm not advertising this as young adults, so please keep that in mind. Youth adult. This is considered a new age because the character Sabina is 16, which in our world is more like an 18 to 20-year-old. So that's why it's considered that. It is technically written for adults. So you would find it in the adult section. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. And it is a very character-driven book. So, and by that, I mean that you're going to get more than just Sabina's point of view. You're going to really be able to find a character within this book that kind of relates to you.
Nice. Very nice. Actually, what a treat to have you on this podcast. I can't wait to have you again and share. You're multi-gifted. That's the best way I can put it. Multi-talented. You're a hypnotist. You're an author.
Yeah, I got my life coach certification and
right.
Yeah.
You're multifaceted and very, I love how you are so focused, and what a pleasure it is to have you on this podcast.
Oh, I'm so glad that you invited me. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story.
Yes. And so the journal on Amazon is Ascension
now.
2023 Ascension Journal, right? And then your book is to Book Funnel. We'll put everything in the show notes. We'll get you so people can read it. And well, I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
One more thing. Where can people find you on TikTok? Where can they find you? Tell them about where they can find you. Tell them anything else you want to tell before we end this.
Okay. Well, so I go by the @ Ashley Pitzer author. So that's on like TikTok, on Facebook. It's also on Instagram. So I am most active on TikTok. That's where, I might do one video a day at max on the other ones, but on TikTok, I'm like doing like 3 or 4 a day, so I'm there, I'm putting my stuff out there and
can you spell your name for that?
Yes. So it's ASHLEY, P is in Paul, T is in Tom, Z is in zebra, ER, and then it's author, AUTHOR. So at Ashley Pitzer.
Pitzer author. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Great, because some people don't look at show notes.
Well, and I also have my podcast, which is Practicing Life. And so one of the things I am, all of a sudden now super interested in is supporting indie authors. So there's like times where I'll be interviewing indie authors. Like today I'm interviewing a mutual friend that Padma knows, which is Joan, to talk about her art. I love Joan because she is like a 72-year-old, the most brightest, active, and alive person you could ever possibly meet, who has like gone through like cancer and is still like so upbeat and happy. I just love her. So I have lots of people on my podcast. I talk about a lot of different things. Yeah. So
great. So that's Practicing Life with Ashley, and then TikTok, and we will have everybody follow you there.
I would love it. Thank you so much for listening to my story.
Thank you, Ashley.
I love you.
Love you too.